The wreckage was still burning when Eli Vorn crash landed beside it, his ship creaking like an elderly grandmother protesting a surprise dance class. Sparks jittered across his console while Vic, the ship's snarky AI, blurted, "Oh great! Let's park next to the dying Starfire Inferno. Excellent survival instincts, Captain Dumbass." "I'm not a captain," Eli muttered, elbowing open the hatch and stepping into the scorched dust of Saturn's outer moon, Telora 9. His boots crunched against glassified soil, heat still licking upward from the cratered wreck. The freighter had fallen like a drunk bird, too graceful for an accident, too violent for a rescue. Eli hadn't come to play hero. He was chasing salvage. Broken tech meant credits, and credits meant protein cubes that didn't taste like despair. But then he heard it, a sound like someone exhaling in pain through cracked glass. He paused. Salvage didn't breathe. The half-melted door of the freighter moaned as he pried it open. Inside was chaos, twisted metal, ruptured synth organs from the ship's biotech controls, and something beautiful. No, not something, someone. Curled in the scorched remains of what might once have been an acceleration pod was a woman. Skin smooth and pale as moon milk, glinting faint blue in the emergency strobe. Long black hair fanned around her like spilled ink, and her ears, long pointed, twitching faintly like she was listening to a dream she didn't trust. She blinked once. Eli froze. Then she whispered a single word in a language that sliced into the air like radio static through bone, and fainted. "Well, that's not ominous at all," he said, staring at the unconscious alien woman like she might grow tentacles and charge rent. Back aboard his junk pile ship, the bucket of regret. "Thank you very much." Eli laid her out on his one clean cot. Vic promptly freaked out. "There is an unregistered life form on board. This violates 47 statutes of..." "She was in a burning ship. I'm not leaving her behind." "Are you aware she might be a shapeshifter, parasite, or a cannibalistic telepath with a grudge against sweaty humans?" Eli rubbed his eyes. "Same could be said about my ex." "Relax." Hours passed. The woman remained still. Occasionally her lips moved in sleep, as though reciting old poetry to ghosts. Eli tried to fix his ship's stabilizer coil, but kept looking back at her. He wasn't good with mysteries, or women, or anything that involved long ears and radiated danger like perfume. Then she woke. Her eyes were deep violet, gleaming like nebulae seen through tinted glass. She sat up fast. Eli reached for the nearest object, his spanner, and nearly dropped it when she spoke. "You are not what I expected," she said in perfect standard. Eli blinked. "You were expecting someone else. Sorry, Space Uber's a little behind out here." She tilted her head, ears flicking. "You jest. That is good. I feared the gravity of my presence would overwhelm you. Well, I once wrestled a liquefied fusion eel inside a zero-G toilet. My standards are weird." She studied him, head tilting further until Eli worried her neck might unscrew. "I am Varel, former Queen of Shadows, heir to the seventh spiral, highborn of..." Cool, he interrupted. "So, are you gonna eat me or what?" Her lips twitched. A smile? A warning? Eli wasn't sure, but something in the air shifted, like the ship held its breath. "No," she said finally, "not unless you ask very nicely." That was the moment Eli knew two things. One, he should have walked away. Two, he was never going to. Outside, stars burned cold and distant, indifferent as always. Inside the ship, an ancient predator stretched like a cat waking from slumber. And a man with nothing left to lose started writing the next bad decision into his life story. The next morning, or what passed for morning in the constant lavender twilight of Telora 9's orbit, Eli found Virel sitting cross-legged on the floor of the galley, surrounded by every edible item on the ship. She had disassembled half the pantry. Protein packs floated open like crime scenes. Nutrient gel tubes were draped across the table like limp noodles, and a jar of peanut butter, his last jar, mind you, was clutched in her long fingers like it contained the secrets of the universe. She looked up, her ears twitching in mild surprise, and said in a serious tone, "This one is acceptable, rich in fats and molecular memory. That's not how peanut butter works, Eli muttered, scratching the back of his neck. I have devoured 3 of your sustenance pouches. The purple ones scream the least. They're grape-flavored. They're deceptive. She narrowed her eyes. Your civilization lies. Eli sat down opposite her, his boots thunking against the metal floor. Well, we've been known to exaggerate, especially about flavor. He reached for the peanut butter. She hissed slightly. He backed off. Right. Minefield, got it. She stared at him, intense and unblinking, then said, You are not afraid of me. Eli leaned back and waved a spoon around vaguely. I mean, you've got freaky ears, glowing skin, speak like a prophecy, and maybe fed on starlight in your sleep. But I've worked with worse. Ever met a Martian tax collector? They eat hope. Varel blinked slowly. You attempt humor. Is this to mask your fear or your attraction? What? He coughed. Look, I'm just trying to keep things light while I figure out if you're going to kill me or turn my ship into a haunted organ. I require neither, she said simply. Yet. That yet did a little dance across Eli's spine. Vic, ever helpful, beeped from the ceiling speaker. Would now be a good time to activate defensive protocols, or shall we wait until she begins sucking out your bone marrow for soup? She's fine, Eli snapped. For now, Vic muttered. Varel stood smoothly. Too smoothly. No one that malnourished should move like a ballet-trained assassin. She walked to the viewport and stared out at the scattered asteroid field, her voice low. I must know, did they follow me? Define they. And if they includes anything with tentacles and vendettas, I'd appreciate a heads up. She turned, face half-shadowed. My people, the highborn. I was not meant to escape. I was supposed to burn. That's a little dramatic, even for royalty. I am more than royalty, she said softly. I was Queen of Shadows, sovereign of the pale spiral. I ruled from the edge of entropy. Eli squinted. Is that a real place? Or is this like when I tell people I went to the University of Life? She ignored the sarcasm. My blood carries markers, signals. Even now they may track me. Unless, she paused, unless I am shielded. Eli waited. Shielded by what? Tech? A lead box? The power of friendship? You, she said. He laughed loudly. Lady, I'm just a guy with a broken ship, a sarcastic toaster for company, and enough emotional baggage to fill a black hole. She stepped closer. Precisely. You are a chaos node, unregistered, unpredictable. They cannot trace me through your pattern. Eli blinked. You're hiding from space vampires. By standing next to a guy with commitment issues and a wrench? Yes, she said. And you smell confusing. That helps. Before Eli could ask what the hell that meant, the ship lights flickered. Vic's voice turned metallic. Unidentified vessel approaching. Cloaked. Fast. Eli stood. Varel's expression sharpened into something ancient, something regal, and very, very dangerous. Well, Eli muttered, reaching for his blaster. Breakfast was nice while it lasted. The cloaked ship descended with the grace of a guillotine. No sound, no warning, just the sudden rupture of air pressure as its sleek form slipped into the asteroid field like a knife into silk. Vic's sensors, always melodramatic in emergencies, screamed across the cockpit, Incoming! Heat signature, hostile. Also, I told you so. Eli barely had time to curse before Varel was at the window, her long ears twitching with unnatural precision. Her eyes gleamed like something ancient being pulled forward through time. They found me, she murmured. Faster than expected. Their hunger is efficient. Hunger, Eli repeated, lunging toward the pilot chair. That's never a fun word when spaceships are involved. They're not here to kill, Varel said grimly. They're here to reclaim. Well, we don't do refunds, he snapped, flipping switches and cursing as the engine coughed smoke. Vic, warm up the jump drive. It's been warming since she said highborn. Also, I think the microwave's leaking again. Through the haze of Eli's ragtag sensors, the cloaked ship began to reveal itself in fragments, tendrils of metal unfolding like a spider stretching in zero-G, its hull covered in blackened sigils that moved when you looked too long. The kind of ship that looked like it had opinions about your soul. They won't fire, Varel said quietly, her tone so calm it was terrifying. Not yet. They'll send in the sentients. Those with mouths, but no need for breath. They speak in your voice and wear your face. Is this your way of warning me that things are about to get deeply messed up? She nodded, deeply and thoroughly. The ship shuddered as something touched the hull, a soft scraping, like nails across a chalkboard made of bones. Vic began reciting random poetry from the archives, likely a glitch, or perhaps just a nervous breakdown. Eli ran to the armory locker, which was more of a glorified closet full of bad decisions and worse wiring. He threw Varel a plasma cutter. She caught it without flinching. You know how to use that? She cocked her head. Number, but I'll learn fast. That's what my ex said before using one to carve her name into my engine core. They moved together down the narrow corridor, past flickering lights and exposed wires. The door to the cargo bay hissed open, and there it stood, or wobbled. A figure, humanoid, stepped forward. Eli froze. It was him. His face, his same slouch, same crooked nose, same shirt that read, I void warranties professionally. Aw, hell, he muttered. Now I have to shoot me? The doppelganger smiled, but its teeth were too many. Eli Vorn, it said. Fixer, liar, survivor. You smell of rust, regret, and peanut butter. Wow, Eli deadpanned. Even my clone is judgy. Varel didn't hesitate. She lunged, slicing the thing's neck in a swift arc. No blood, just a hiss of vacuum escaping a meat suit. The creature collapsed like jelly in a jacket. That wasn't me, right? Eli asked. Not unless you've developed detachable jaws and an aura of eternal despair. He considered. I mean, I am pretty sad sometimes. More shadows slithered from the docking tunnel. Copies of other people Eli had known, some long dead. A childhood friend, his old mechanic mentor, his third-grade teacher, wielding a chainsaw made of plasma. He screamed, That's Mrs. Pelling! She failed me in math! Don't let her touch anything! Varel moved like a nightmare through fog, her body blurring at the edges. She whispered in a language that made the bulkhead sweat. Shadows shrank from her. One of the sentients burst into particles like sand caught in a furnace. Eli fired wildly, occasionally hitting something. Do they have to pick the scariest people from my past? They read your memory web. They choose the shapes that unsettle your rhythm. That explains my ex. And Mrs. Pelling. With a final scream of static, the remaining figures crumbled, leaving only scorched deck plates and the smell of burnt circuits. Varel turned to him, panting. Her ears drooped slightly. They're testing us. Testing you. If you were weak, I'd be gone already. Eli lowered his blaster. Well, glad I passed the don't die screaming test. You impressed them, she said, which means they'll escalate. He groaned. Great. What's worse than doppelganger nightmares? She leaned close, eyes glowing. Next time, they'll send my sisters. The ship limped through warp drift like a hungover dragon in a wind tunnel. Sparks coughing from the ceiling and the stabilizers wheezing in protest. Eli kicked the console gently, his version of a loving caress, and whispered, Just hold together a little longer, Bucket. You die now, and I'm haunting your remains with a banjo. Vic, sounding vaguely offended, replied, I am 93% sure haunting is not a posthumous function of this vessel, Captain. Also, I hate banjos. In that case, Eli grinned, I'll bring two. In the co-pilot seat, Varel sat with her eyes half-lidded, ears motionless, like a statue sculpted from moonlight and sarcasm. The battle had drained her, visibly. Her skin had dimmed from that eerie pale blue to something closer to frostbitten porcelain. She hadn't touched the peanut butter in hours, which was frankly more alarming than the homicidal doppelgangers. Do you need blood? Eli asked awkwardly, drumming fingers on the dash. She blinked slowly. Essence, she corrected. Blood is crude. Essence is life woven in light. Memory, heat, potential, right, Eli nodded. So, emotional smoothies. Got it. I'm surviving, she said, though her voice cracked faintly at the edges. Eli didn't press. Instead, he set a course for Juno Station 9, a semi-legal refueling port orbiting the dying star Epsilon Crux. It was a place where credits changed hands without questions, and identities were more flexible than spaghetti in low gravity. "You'll like Juno," he said. "It's got character, and rats the size of small dogs. But honestly, they mind their business." She didn't answer. Instead, she stared out at the spiraling void like she missed it, like the endless dark was a memory, not a threat. By the time they arrived, the station looked exactly as Eli remembered. Rusted metal domes fused to asteroid hulls, patched with solar cloth and poor decisions. Neon signs flickered in 17 languages, one of which only screamed. The docking protocol came through with a chirp. "Welcome to Juno 9. We're only mildly radioactive today. Please mind the gravity inconsistencies." Eli turned to Varel. "You'll want to wear a hood or something. People get twitchy around royalty. And vampiriness." She raised a brow. "Do I appear twitchy to you?" "No, but that's you." The locals panic if their beer foam's wrong. They descended the ramp together. Varel wore Eli's old flight jacket, oversized and patched with duct tape, which somehow made her look even more terrifying, like a queen on the run dressed as a rebel in a B-movie. Her ears poked through the hood, flicking irritably. Inside the bazaar, a dozen alien species haggled over illegal tech, glittering crystals, and one genuinely confused goat in a space helmet. A merchant shouted, "Fresh cloned meat!" grown from ethically sourced pirates. They weaved through the crowd until Eli ducked into a shadowy stall filled with humming circuitry and buckets of blinking wires. "Bork!" Eli called. A voice burbled from beneath a pile of mech arms. "You owe me 17 credits and a sandwich." From the heap emerged Bork, a caffeine-addicted cephalopod with 8 limbs, 4 monocles, and a personality like a caffeinated blender. He was part mechanic, part information broker, and part disaster. Bork slithered toward Varel and froze. "That's not human. That's highborn. Also, she's way out of your league." "I saved her from a fire," Eli said. "You save broken vending machines too. Doesn't mean you should date them." "I'm not dating," Eli began. Varel cut in. "He's mine." Bork whistled. "Oh no. You've bonded. I can smell it. Like ozone and questionable decisions." Eli sighed. "We need help. They're tracking her. We got hit with face thieves, and maybe clones of her vampire sisters are next." Bork's monocles clicked nervously. "Then you're already dead." "Great," Eli said. "Got a refund policy for that?" Bork pointed to a crate marked "Do not open ever." "I might have something. Old highborn tech. Dangerous. Illegal. Smells like betrayal. You'll love it." Varel stepped forward. "Open it." Bork hesitated. "Are you sure?" Her eyes burned like twin novas. "I'm starving." The crate hissed as its biometric seals disengaged, releasing a low, oily mist that slithered across the floor like it was hunting ankles. Eli coughed and waved his hands. "Is it supposed to smell like betrayal? Because I'm definitely getting notes of wet carpet and parental disappointment." Bork ignored him, which was his usual approach to most of Eli's commentary. With a flourish entirely too theatrical for an octopoid, he revealed the contents. A spherical artifact suspended in a containment field, hovering gently over a cracked stone basin etched with alien glyphs that shifted if you stared too long. The orb pulsed with internal light, red, then gold, then the color of a scream you once heard in a dream and tried very hard to forget. Varel inhaled sharply, her ears flaring. "You kept a memory seed?" "It kept me," Bork said, voice low. "Wouldn't let me sell it, eat it, or throw it into a star. Just kept whispering. Stuff like, 'She is not gone,' and 'The echo survives.' You know, casual nightmare talk." Eli took a cautious step back. "Quick question. On a scale of 1 to full apocalyptic meltdown, where does this land?" "Depends," Bork said. "If she opens it, it could connect her to the Pale Spiral. Power, secrets, maybe a psychic cheese platter, or it could alert everything within 50 light years that she's still alive." "Excellent," Eli muttered, "like a galactic newsletter, but with fewer unsubscribe options." Varel reached for the orb, fingers brushing the containment field. The energy pulsed in time with her breath, and the glyphs began to shift faster, as if excited or afraid. She whispered something under her breath, a word in her native tongue, half sung, half bitten. The containment field flickered out. The orb dropped into her palm. Everything stopped. The bazaar outside went silent. Somewhere, a trader dropped a synth melon that hit the floor with a squelch, and no one even noticed. Light bent around Varel's body in slow spirals. Her eyes turned fully black, reflecting not the room, but something older, bigger, wrong. Eli's hand hovered near his blaster. Hey, you still in there? Varel didn't respond. Her voice, when it finally came, was not hers. It was a dozen voices, layered and distorted like a broken choir. She reaches for us, the traitor, the queen of hunger, the fallen flame. Okay, Eli said quickly. So that's a no on the psychic cheese platter. She will awaken the sisters, she will rip open the veil, and the stars will bleed. Varel's body jerked once, twice. Then she gasped and collapsed. Eli caught her, knees hitting the floor hard. The orb rolled gently into Bork's waiting tentacle, which promptly stuffed it into a containment flask that looked suspiciously like an old coffee thermos. She opened the signal, Bork said grimly. They know. She's burning up, Eli said, pressing a hand to her forehead. She was ice cold, but her veins glowed faintly with golden threads. Is this essence withdrawal, or... No, Bork said. She's processing. That was the memory of 100 ancestors with control issues. It'll take a minute. Varel stirred, eyelids fluttering. Her voice was faint. I saw them, my sisters, sleeping in lightless cities, waiting. One is already awake. She's coming. Eli stood slowly, cradling her in his arms. We're leaving. You'll need cover, Bork said. A place not bound to star maps. I know a moon has its own heartbeat. No one goes unless invited. Do they serve snacks? Number just shadows. And maybe enlightenment if you squint. Close enough. Vic, patching through on comms, muttered, Great. Can't wait to be haunted again. As they hauled Varel back to Moana, the bucket of regret, the station lights flickered. Somewhere deep in space, something ancient stirred. One of the sisters had awoken, and she was hungry. The moon wasn't on any chart, because it wasn't, strictly speaking, a moon. From orbit, it looked like one. A pitted, pale gray satellite drifting in a dead arc around a gas giant with storm bands the color of bruises. But as the bucket of regret crept closer, pushed to her limit by a reluctant warp skip and Vic's panicked algorithms, the truth came into view. The moon pulsed. Not light, not radiation. Something deeper. A slow rhythm, like a slumbering heart beating beneath a skin of rock. With each pulse, the gravitational signature shifted minutely, subtle enough to evade detection, but deliberate enough to make Eli's stomach mutter threats. Okay, he said, gripping the controls. You sure this is the moon with the weird heartbeat and not, say, a cosmic parasite impersonating one? Bork's voice buzzed through the comms. Only one way to find out. If it eats you, it was a parasite. If it whispers your childhood fears back at you in perfect harmony, probably the moon. Comforting, Eli muttered, nudging the ship into descent. Behind him, Varel stirred, wrapped in one of his old blankets that smelled vaguely of engine grease and regret. She'd slept for 18 hours, eyes fluttering in a dream state the whole time. Now she sat up slowly, her long ears twitching. Her skin had regained its faint inner glow, the golden veins pulsing more calmly beneath the surface. This place, she whispered. I know it. Eli glanced back. That's good, because I'd really prefer not to be eaten by space architecture today. The last time I stood on that soil, she said softly, I was still mortal. He raised a brow. Define mortal, because your definition seems to include drinking plasma smoothies and phasing through walls. I bled, she said simply, and I could die. They landed with a soft shudder. No alarms, no welcoming committee, just silence so thick it seemed to press on the hull. Outside the viewport, the surface rippled subtly, like rock breathing beneath a dream. Vic? Eli asked. Reading anything? Yes, Vic replied. Existential dread. Also elevated humidity. They stepped out into the stillness. The landscape was smooth, unnaturally smooth. No craters, no debris, just miles of gently sloping rock that seemed to absorb sound. The sky overhead was black, even though the gas giant glowed on the horizon like a watchful eye. "This isn't natural," Eli said. "No," Varel agreed. "It's older than natural. This place was shaped by thought." "Great. I once tried to shape my toaster by thought. It burned my toast in protest." They walked in silence, every footstep swallowed immediately by the ground. After 10 minutes, the first structure rose before them. A spire, tall and narrow, made of a metal that drank in light. It had no seams, no doors. Yet Varel stepped forward and pressed her palm to its side. The surface rippled, then dissolved. A passage opened. "You highborn always know where the secret doors are?" Eli asked. "No," she said. "Just the ones made from forgotten promises." Inside, the corridor spiraled downward, walls etched with sigils that changed every time Eli blinked. At one point, he swore one of them morphed into his mother's disapproving face. They reached a chamber, circular, vast, empty, except it wasn't. In the center floated a woman, or something that wore the shape of a woman. Her hair was silver smoke. Her ears were longer than Varel's, curving up like antennae. Her eyes were shut, but the hum that filled the air was clearly tied to her breathing. She hovered inches above a dais, suspended by something unseen. Varel stepped closer. Her voice dropped into reverence. "Sister?" Eli frowned. "This is one of your sisters? She looks peaceful." "She won't stay that way," Varel murmured. "She's already begun to wake." As if in response, the woman's eyelids twitched. Eli reached for his blaster. "So what happens if she opens her eyes?" The hum deepened. The chamber vibrated. Varel didn't answer. Instead, she turned to Eli with an expression he hadn't seen before. Uncertainty. "We may not survive it." He grinned grimly. "Well, good thing we brought snacks." From behind them, a second hum started. A different frequency. Deeper. Older. Another sister had arrived. The second hum rolled through the chamber like a wave through gravity, shaking dust from the ceiling and memories from Varel's bones. Eli staggered, bracing himself against the shifting wall. The structure moaned. No. Sighed. In response, like it was disappointed things had come to this. Then the other sister appeared. She stepped through a shimmer in space like stepping through mist. Tall and graceful and draped in threads of dark matter woven into a gown. Her eyes were open, but they were hollow, twin voids where stars went to die. Her ears curved backward like blades, and when she smiled, galaxies flinched. Varel stiffened. "Tyreth." "Sister," the newcomer said with a voice smooth as poisoned honey. "You always were the sentimental one." Eli immediately did the brave thing and tried to hide behind Varel. "This was a trap," Varel whispered. "The memory seed, the moon, everything." Tyreth walked forward, each step making the air colder. "You should have stayed lost. The highborn do not forgive exiles, and certainly not queens who fall in love with humans." Eli blinked. "Okay, wow. That's a big assumption. I'm charming, sure, but—" Varel interrupted. "She's right." Eli stopped. "Wait, what?" Varel turned to him, solemn. "I was never meant to survive the crash. I was unmade. What I am now exists because you pulled me from fire, touched me, changed me." Tyrus snorted. "Love makes us weak. You traded the pale spiral for a man who wears socks with holes and smells of burnt circuitry." Varel smiled faintly. "And yet, I am stronger than I ever was." She reached into herself, literally. Fingers slid into the glow at her chest, pulling forth the golden thread of her essence. The soul-bound link formed during Eli's rescue. It shimmered, pulsing with light and laughter, rage and memory. She looked at Eli. "You've given me chaos, mortality, choice." Then she hurled the thread at Tyreth. Light exploded. Not the sharp, burning kind of light. This light was warmth. It was Varel's laugh when Eli had told her his worst joke. It was the peanut butter smear across her cheek. It was every impossible decision that made her more than highborn. It was human. Tyreth screamed, not in pain, but in recognition. She staggered back, ears twitching violently, eyes flashing from void to something like color. Cracks appeared along her skin, through which golden veins pulsed uncertainly. "I don't understand," Tyreth whispered. "You don't have to," Varel said softly. "You just have to choose." A long silence followed. Then Tyreth collapsed, not broken, but undone. Her body sank into stasis, not death. A chrysalis for something else, perhaps. Something that might learn. The chamber settled. The humming ceased. The other floating sister, the one from before, slowly descended to the dais and lay still. Vic's voice crackled in over Eli's wristband. "So, do I cancel the dramatic self-destruct you requested earlier, or—" "Yes, Vic," Eli sighed. "Cancel the self-destruct. Also remind me never to pick up unconscious, long-eared strangers from burning wrecks." "Statistically," Vic replied, "you'll do it again within 6 months." Later on the ship, patched up and finally quiet, Eli sat beside Varel in the cockpit. She gazed out at the stars, ears relaxed, eyes soft. "So," he said, "what now? Do we go fight more evil sisters? Liberate shadow empires? Open a noodle shop?" She turned to him, smiling. "No empires. No wars. I've had enough of those, just time. Time to be." He hesitated. "With me? If you'll have me," she said, "make me your wife, human, and we'll be immortal together." Eli looked at her, thought about how far they'd come, doppelgangers, psychic moons, eldritch fashion statements, and nodded. "Only if you promise not to bite me too hard," she laughed low and real. "Deal." The bucket of regret cruised onward into the void, carrying with it 2 strange souls bound by fire, chaos, and the choice to be something more than they were. Behind them, the pale spiral dimmed. Ahead, the stars waited.